Cool. This is exciting. We get to just go ahead and start. Well, welcome to the Madness Continues podcast. And I'm your host, Brendan Lemon. And I'm mad today, actually. This is a good day for the Madness Continues because the world feels mad and I feel mad myself. This is the day after the election, and joining me today is my very good friend and philosopher buddy, the lazy philosopher himself, Bill Beteet.
Hey, how's it going? And then what's funny is last time, do you want to talk about what today is?
You go ahead.
Well, so last time Trump won, I had Brendan on my podcast, and literally the next day. And so what's cool is here at Mirror Studios, it's a way better than like what we recorded on. So there has been progress.
Yeah, there's been a lot of progress.
But at the same time, no progress.
Yeah, dude, we're back. We're back here. It feels like we're in an episode of Groundhog Day.
Yes.
This is the same thing over and over again.
Yes, right. Did I wake up and Trump's president again?
Again? What happened? Except I'm not 30 anymore. Like, what happened to me?
Yeah.
It was like actually terrifying. Yeah, this is a fabled recording. Bill has a great podcast, had a great podcast that he has not been doing because he's been focused on other projects called The Lazy Philosopher. And we're both comics from Chicago, now in New York. But I wanted to talk to you about Hegel today because you are a huge fan of Hegel. And the funny thing about it is, as we were walking here to record this podcast, you started talking about Volkgeist and the world spirit and how like what does Trump's re-election mean in the course of like the world spirit and all this stuff. And we'll get into that, but I feel like first I just want to say, how are you feeling based on now less than 24 hours into a president-elect Donald J. Trump again?
So I'm in mourning.
Dude, you got really serious.
I'm in mourning. I mourn the people who don't know they're going to die from the change in policies surrounding healthcare.
Yeah.
I mourn the futures that we could have had under President Harris. Recreational marijuana would have meant that there are tons of people all over the country that don't spend their life behind bars at all for enjoying a plant that's legal in a lot of the country, and we know doesn't make them violent. I mourn the people who are going to be in prison. I mourn the result of the immunity that police are going to have. I mourn that AGI, artificial general intelligence, is going to come into existence during a presidency and is going to allow for more of an autocratic centralization of power that involves fewer people. I mourn the children in Gaza who now have no chance at any type of reconciliation that is going to be favorable to them.
And the people of Ukraine who probably are going to be bowled over by Russia soon.
Exactly. I mourn the children in Yemen who got more aid under Biden than they would have ever under the Trump administration. I mourn the DRC and a lot of the sanctions that we put in place to make sure that mining operations had to clean up to some degree are no longer going to be in effect, and there's going to be more people taken advantage of. But I mourn all the futures I could have lived and the type of happiness I could have experienced under a Kamala Harris presidency that I just see patently unavailable. So yeah, that's where I feel.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to unpack, Bill, but one thing I just want to point out is this felt particularly relevant to you because you volunteered for Kamala's campaign.
It felt particularly relevant to me because I'm an Indian black lawyer. All right, I'm an Indian black lawyer with a younger sister named Maya. So, and I called it. I said when they chose Kamala, I said that the Midwesterners would not vote for an Indian black person who is a lawyer because I have been an Indian black person in a Midwestern state, and the white people there did not like me that much. That's why I'm in New York now. No, I'm just playing. There was a lot of people who showed up.
I mean, you're kind of not playing because I remember living with you in Chicago at the time, and I mean, we weren't living together, but we were both in Chicago. And seeing the difficulty that people had understanding you in that context.
Yeah, the social logic, the underlying general suspicion, and when you compare the fact that you have somebody who has been an attorney general, very competent at their job, people are like, the economy, stock market's never been higher, had a plan to bring down inflation. You're like, oh, she covered all the bases. She just wasn't in the avatar that people wanted them to be in order for them to support her. And so a lot of people either stayed home or they voted the other way.
Which makes no sense because I feel like criticism that you constantly heard during the campaign was she has to be perfect, and this guy can just say anything. It's wild. I mean, and I think that I'm not sure I even want to go in this direction in this conversation, but it's amazing to me because the criticism that like, oh, this is we're watching what white privilege is in action and male privilege is in action had been levied against a bunch of, I mean, they were just like, yeah, he can say and do anything. This is what this is about. I don't think that there's a part of me that feels like that's not too far from the mark. And I don't, the funny thing about it is you've known me for a long time. I'm reluctant to really believe that because I feel like it isn't just that. There's something more complicated that's going on. But the feeling that like you've had living in the Midwest where people can't immediately understand you. Even Trump's criticism on the campaign where he's like, oh, is she black? Is she, I don't understand. Is she Jamaican? Is she like, it sounds so stupid, but I think that there is a genuine group of people to whom that is a meaningful criticism that they're like, yeah, I just don't get like the feeling they have. Like when we were walking over here, we were talking and I was saying, I think that you had said, and I don't think this is revealing too much, that you're like, I kind of feel betrayed by like this country. I kind of feel betrayed by my fellow Americans. And I said, actually, I think it's worse than that because I think betrayal is there's some intention behind it that there was a contract or there was something that was held up that was then gone against. I actually think it's worse. I think that there's a group of people for whom and I think you're right, a lot of them in the Midwest, for whom feeling, yeah, I just kind of just don't get what she is enough to cause them to be like, I don't like Donald Trump, but like, I don't, what is Kamala?
Do you want to be, I know you're not one of these Kamala guys, Joe.
Yeah.
You're not a Kamala guy, right?
You're not a Kamala guy, dude.
You may be a Khabib guy, but you're not a Kamala guy.
What do you like? Do you pee sitting down? Yeah. Do you have to like, do you know what I mean? You got to ask your wife to clean to clear the dishes? Like,
yeah, I have a wife. Like that's
insane, man.
And I think, so yes, I do. Here's the thing is, do I think that Trump is funny? Yes, I think he's funny. I think he's a likable guy. I think he's one of the greatest entertainers who's ever lived. I think he has
undefeated WWE record.
Undefeated. I think he possesses an indomitable spirit. I think that there are virtues in his vices. He is vice first, but there is virtue that he uses to support those vices.
Yeah.
But I don't ever think he should have been president. And I think that the world is worse off for it. And I think America is worse off for it. And I mourn the America that I thought could have existed because now I feel like we are in a sub-America that is actually a MAGA America.
Weird shadow America.
A shadow America. And I want to say this again. AGI means that they're going to be able to focus power. They're going to make God during his term, and it's going to operate under Trump's logic. And so that means that they're going to need fewer of you. And all the stress tests that we have, the power distribution, all of this other stuff, that's not ready for AI. That's not ready for needing just 10 people to be along with your plan.
Talk more about AGI for a second and about, because I feel like it's something that I've also been concerned about. I feel like I was worried about it early and have been criticized on social media for it a lot. And the funny thing about it is I think I'm going to be vindicated in time and have been somewhat already, that like there's just a lot of, I mean, whatever, we don't need to walk down talking about ChatGPT and all this yet. The point that I'm making is that it's going to become more powerful and people are going to become more redundant. In what way do you see that playing out? Because you said it's going to be during his term, basically the next 40 years, you think this is going to happen. I mean, what indicates to you that that's going to happen?
So OpenAI has said AGI is going to come online by the end of 2025. Mm-hmm. And with that power, you can have AI agents. AI agents are basically where you reproduce your AI to then carry out a task autonomously. And so that is going to increase the level of productivity of people who understand and how to wield the power. That also means that we're going to watch the destruction of a lot of jobs that involve you going to a 9-to-5. How does that come into effect under a Trump presidency? Well, it means you're going to need cities less. And on top of that, he's already shown with COVID.
Wait, why would you need cities less?
Because cities are about the concentration of intelligent and human capital and education in order to push innovation. And that's been the one real advantage of cities throughout history and time is if you get enough people together and you have good enough institutions that they are able to innovate. And as a leader, you actually want that to prosper because your country gets richer. But what superintelligence does is it means that you don't actually need that many people to have innovation, to have power, to be able to do tons of jobs that you would have needed massive manpower for in the past. And so
all of those jobs can now be done automatically, instantaneously, 24 hours a day with the amount of computing power behind them that used to require a building full of people.
Exactly. And on top of that, one of his biggest campaign donors
Elon Musk.
Yes, Tesla bots that are going to be in your house, that are going to be listening, that can be all controlled from a central headquarters. Or,
like we saw when he revealed them recently, an army of actual fucking robots that are probably going to be... I'm reminded of that episode of Black Mirror where they discuss... You probably didn't even see this, but there's an episode of Black Mirror on Netflix called Metalhead. It's an all black and white episode where a group of people is going through a warehouse and they discover one of these tiny Boston Dynamics looking robot dogs that then it wakes up and through the rest of the entire episode, which is like a short film, it just runs them down and kills all of them one by one. It's a depressing, bleak, very difficult to watch episode. And I'm watching these Boston Dynamics videos now, and then the ones that Tesla has revealed, and I'm like, this dude, because Tesla's we want you to have a robot in your house. It can cook, it can clean, it can fucking kill you at night. What is it? He becomes the Secretary of Transportation or Innovation or whatever he's going to become under Trump's presidency. And then you tweet a bunch of stuff or X a bunch of stuff that's anti-Trump. It gets fed into an algorithm. They figure out who you are. And one weekend, they decide to get rid of all of the dissent. And there's a legal framework for it because Trump's already been given immunity for official acts as president. He's talked about the enemy within. He's already said these things. It's genuinely terrifying. It feels like we're living through a horror film in slow motion.
Yes. And talking about Hegel, I think there are two undercurrents of the American spirit. There is the hyper individualism with subtextual misogyny and sexism and racism, but I don't think that's at the forefront of MAGA. I do want to present. I think they are more diverse than they were in 2016 and 2020, which is absolutely stupid. And I feel it is, to all the Muslim leaders in Dearborn, I want to see how this works out for you. I really do. I want to see how he represents what you wanted, your vision of the world when he tried to ban you on the first day. I'm
not sure he recognizes a difference. We I guess we'll see. But
yeah,
can you hold on before you go on? I want you to back up. You talked about the American spirit. Can you talk about Hegel's concept of spirit for a second to just contextualize this for everybody?
Yeah. So Hegel believes that. So we are an unfolding of this spirit called absolute spirit through time, right? And history is this spirit learning about itself through interactions with reality. And collectively, there is a thing called the Volkgeist, which is the spirit of your people, right?
Folk spirit.
Yes.
In English. Yeah.
Yes. And that collectively has a certain energy. They say Hitler tapped into the Volkgeist of the German people and unified them, Otto von Bismarck, all this thing where you can get under a collective label and really do something special. And you saw it to some extent with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz's campaign. There was a spirit of joy. There really was. There was. So you see this undercurrent. And what I saw, which was really cool whenever I was canvassing for the Harris campaign, was a bunch of middle-aged white people traveling from all over the country to knock on doors to save democracy. And, I'm not being hyperbolic. January 6th did happen. Mike Pence did say that Donald Trump did try to stop the election process. So these are not this is not hyperbole. And people got.
Well, it's also not controversial.
It's not controversial.
There's no question about what happened. It's on the record.
It is on the record. And you saw people from all over getting in cars, doing this to try and have something new be born, and what that would be. But then you had this other spirit within America that is resistant to anything that's, I think, different or difficult to understand, right? What is the right's obsession with the trans
Transism.
Yeah, it's different and it's weird. I don't get it. That is easy to villainize, right? And so there's been this consolidation of power of, okay, everybody who likes fundamentalism in its various forms is under the banner of MAGA. You have Hasidic Jews and neo-Nazis both endorsing the same candidate because their ideology is actually functionally, materially not that different.
I don't want to move on from Spirit too much, just because I feel like Hegel's conception of history is relevant here, right? Because he believes that history is a sense of spirit unfolding itself consistently. It's a little bit strange to me because it feels like when you watch us go away from Donald Trump and then come back, I say us meaning America. I'm lumping us, even though I didn't vote for the guy, you didn't vote for the guy, but I'm lumping us all into this category. There's something about that feels like it already unfolded. Like, why are we going back to it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do want to qualify my statement real quick.
Sure.
Which is when I say that neo-Nazis and Hasidic Jews have an overlap, right? There is a patriarchal undertone. There is a simplicity.
Yeah.
There is a belief that you are the chosen people, right? So there is this fundamentalism that is in the underpinning of a lot of these ideologies that they feel very comfortable with Trump being the avatar for, even if they have very disparate ideologies. Whereas with the Democrats, you have a bunch of people who actually are not that similarly situated and have a bunch of very different ideologies that you're trying to get under the same banner. And so, and this unfolding through history, this self-learning process, so like Biden is a movement, right? So they say Hegel would say Trump is a reaction from Obama, right? That there was so much progressive movement, the legalization of gay marriage, medicalized marijuana being available, affordable healthcare. He's black.
Yep.
There's this movement through time.
Yep.
Then you have Trump, who is maintaining a bunch of very conservative values and dog whistling, white supremacist talking points. He gets into power.
He's the antithesis.
He's the antithesis.
There's a thesis, an antithesis,
and then there is a synthesis, which is Joe Biden.
Yeah.
But then we have just moved back to a new conservative
antithesis. Yeah.
And this movement, we will see. The thing is, it is more unified than it was before. He got a lot more Latino votes. I do want to present this. He did tap more into the world spirit in order to get this win. He got more Latinos to vote for him. He got more Arab Americans to vote for him. He got more black men to vote for him. He got more black women to vote for him, right? So there was a movement. Even though black women overwhelmingly showed up for Kamala, there was a movement towards him in this. And so
this is what's confusing to me, and this is us now making this entirely about the election. Like, I actually want to talk about Baudrillard and the concept of transism soon.
Yes.
But I am surprised, truly surprised, that he got a greater share of women voters this election than in 2020 with Biden. That was genuinely surprising because after the eroding of Roe v. Wade and the Project 2025, that's basically said that they're going to create a registry of pregnant women. You can't cross state lines. If you leave the state, you go get an abortion somewhere else, you come back, we're going to, charge you. We now have, we're going to have both houses of Congress are going to be Republican. The courts are stacked. The Supreme Court is stacked, and we're going to have a Republican president. I think it's an inevitability that women's rights are further eroded in America. I think that's going to happen. That like a lot of these state constitutions that have
Let's get up that birth rate, guys.
We got to get up that birth rate, man. We got to get up that birth rate. If we're going to get rid of the immigrants, somebody's got to do the job, so we need to produce the babies to do it. It's depressing, and it's true.
And I also just don't like when my girl has different opinions than me.
Honest to God, man. Like I sometimes I found myself today I had to resist making a bunch of ironic jokes like that because I was like, I remember the last time this happened. I remember 8 years ago when this happened. And then you would make an ironic joke and people would be like, what the fuck? Like me and who was it? Whatever. I don't even shouldn't say it out loud. Me and a well-known person from the Chicago comedy scene got in a real row and on Facebook. That's how long ago this was, because I made a joke and he was like, "This is not funny. This is not fucking funny. This is ridiculous. I've got, this is real people's lives and all this stuff." And like, fair enough. There's a time and place, you know what I mean? And the internet is in front of everyone all the time. But like, it's absolutely bonkers to me that I want to be making a joke about it because it's so insane. Like a guy who's like, my wife's got to listen to me now, and all this kind of. This is why these guys voted this way, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of them, and we talked about this before in 2016 when a lot of people, there's a lot of men that feel left out of the liberal agenda or liberal talking points, etc.
And I think they still do. Yep. I guess in 8 years, nothing's changed.
Yeah, and so
before we move on, I just want to say the joke here is that on Bill's podcast, I went, "White men built this country," and I meant it, and I still mean it.
With help.
Oh my God, dude. Whatever. I'm gonna get the first episode of this podcast is after we reboot it, and I'm gonna get canceled. So,
dude, no, you're not gonna. Dude, Trump's president. What are you talking about?
That's right. You're right. You're right.
Dude, like,
all bets are off.
Right, dude. Dude,
are you kidding?
Right.
It's my time.
Yeah, right. Like, dude, what? Cancel
it's my fucking time.
You can't get canceled.
Let's go, dude. Let's fucking go.
Oh.
Jesus
a late
Christ.
endorsement by Brendan Lemon for Donald Trump. But
so late. The great part about America is I can endorse Trump but actually vote for Kamala.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing I want to bring up, and this was something I talked about with Brendan. Donald Trump has a very good record of working very closely with people who called him Hitler. So we'll be fine.
That's so true. JD, his vice president called him Hitler.
Yeah, RFK was like, "I will never." And so it's just like there is a forgiving spirit in Trump as long as you're nice to him.
I feel like I just finished a porn scene. All right, sorry. Go ahead. As long as you end up kissing the ring.
As long as you end up kissing the ring. And so Trump, I will kiss the ring. Just build parks in our cities. Donald, name them after yourself.
I'll kiss the ring. Just give me fucking healthcare.
Yeah, Trump Care Hospital. You can get healthcare from people from worse countries' medical care systems.
You know what the most masculine thing you can do is? Just walk into a fucking hospital, get some healthcare, and then not pay, dude. I didn't pay a dime.
Didn't pay a fucking dime. That's
hell yeah, dude. I went home. I had sex with my girlfriend.
Yeah, man. And so that's what I think. If there, I don't believe that the Democratic Party is going to be able to mount any type of resistance meaningfully against this. I don't know who else.
No, I think we're done. I think it's over, dude.
So
I think we're cooked.
So for me, the reasons why these things are conservative values is where I'm going.
Would it be ironic? How that seems like an actual weird irony that like an entire liberal agenda ends up getting pushed through like the most reactionary president.
Yeah, well, I think here's the thing: Trump doesn't want people dying. They just happen to incidentally die because he listens to the wrong people.
Yeah, but he doesn't. He doesn't want them dead. He just doesn't fucking care.
Yeah, like what reality causing people to die? What?
They're dying. I don't understand. I told them not to. I said, "Why do you have to die? I don't like people who die. I like the people who live."
Yeah. So
4 more years of that impression.
Yes,
4 more years of that impression.
But like talking back about the world spirit, I think that there was a way, that the world felt whenever Obama was president, that a lot of people all over the world, like, just felt very proud of America. Like, they felt very proud of that story in the background. And I feel like a lot of the world is just like, what the fuck?
Dude, I got so many, I got friends all over the world and all of them messaged me from Singapore to Finland. Everybody, this morning I woke up from messages from friends being like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, no, dude."
It felt like a death of a lot of dreams. I think about this, my Aunt Phyllis died during COVID, and I was in France during COVID, and I saw a country handle it correctly. And and it's weird reckoning with the fact that, you know, there's a lot of people who were like, well, she was over 65, so she should be dead. Right, like there's no reason for her to be alive, and you know, both my parents are over 65, and they've had many good days post COVID. It's insane how quickly everybody was just like, oh, if you have diabetes or anything like that, well, we don't really need to keep you. It was a very like. Yeah, that perspective, and so I'm afraid of that returning because that devaluation of life, it has consequences. It's going to have consequences.
I think it's returned, man. I think it's. Yeah. I think just seeing the sweep of both the Electoral College and the popular vote for him is enough to be like, wow, we were talking about this on the way over here. Is that one of my favorite sayings is it's not a principle until it costs you something. And it's like things cost money. Values cost. Values have a cost. It costs you something to hold. This is why I don't respect people who have easy virtues. This is why, like, it's weird because, like, we're two people who are liberals. I'll say that on the record. So when Trump's Gestapo comes, that's gonna be. Yeah, you're gonna text me a photo and be like, "Thanks for putting that on the record, Brendan, on the internet." When the Tesla robot comes in to finish us both, it'll be because of that line. Anyway, we're both liberals, right? But I think that the what the fuck was I talking about?
I was too busy thinking like, damn, he did mention we were liberals on here. Fuck.
I know, dude.
I was like, future version of me. I was like, dude. I mean, that's pretty metal, but like, you know, I got a wife, man. It's just,
Bill's gotta like pay bills.
I'm not a liberal. I'm a like liberal. You know, like
I'm kind of liberal.
Yeah. You know,
I voted for Kamala. I flirted with voting for Kamala.
Yeah, dude. But you know, like leftists don't like me. You know.
See, that's what I was gonna say though. Is that it's like it's weird because I feel like we get into trouble a little bit because there's a policing of language and a number. This was the direction that was heading in. I forget exactly. I'll remember in a second the specific point I was going to make. But like, it's funny because like we'll get into trouble in that direction because there is a kind of etiquette that I feel like. Oh, easy virtue. I remember what I was going to say. Now returning to the point, we'll cut that middle part out for the clip on social media. The point is that I don't respect people with easy virtues. And the concept of virtue signaling gets me very frustrated because I feel like you didn't do anything to like earn this. You feel very disappointed today because you not only saw yourself and identified with the candidate for president, you put in effort. You went out, you worked for it, you went to Pennsylvania, you went with your wife, you went door to door. You know what I mean? You had a number of uncomfortable conversations with people about why they shouldn't be voting for Trump and why they should be voting for Kamala. And you really put something on the line. That was an earned feeling, like the feeling of disappointment that you feel. Not that people who do feel that, who didn't do anything, aren't, can't accept or feel that feeling too. Of course, they have a right to that. The point that I'm making is that all of these are easy virtues are things that I don't like. It's not a principle until it costs you something. To get back to the point that I was going to make, it feels like America just decided, yeah, we just like money. Like the economy is the most important thing.
My groceries. No, but like here's the thing.
I can't. My dollar's not going as far. I don't care if all of Gaza has to get wiped out so I have to pay $1 less for milk, I'm fine with it.
And, you know, people are like, what is her policies going to do to solve that? And it was like, she's going to stop price colluding. But, like, the thing was, and, like, I also have to say this. He said there were liberals. Look, I feel like the Democratic Party got co-opted by leftists who have a death drive for this country. And makes us easy targets because we get conflated with one or the other. But they didn't show up. They never showed up.
No.
Because they're losers. Like, and I'm going to say this a lot of leftists do not show up because they don't actually have the work ethic to make the future that they want. And also, I've read the 1848 manuscripts. I've read parts of the Communist Manifesto. I've read Hegel, who inspired Marx. And I'm going to tell you, he was great at diagnosing the problem. He's like a witch doctor with the solution. It's like you got the cold, so let's cover you with leeches, cut your leg off, and let's talk in the morning.
This is my problem. Is I get so many arguments on social media, dude, where people are like, "You're nothing but a communist," and I'm like, "Bro, I'm not."
Yeah, bro.
First of all, I want to be a billionaire. I want to be a billionaire so bad. People buy those billionaire boys club
Yes.
shirts. No, bro, I just want to be a billionaire.
Yes.
I'm so excited. You know how much I love fake titties, bro.
Dude.
I want, that's what I want. I
Yes.
want to be a fake titty billionaire.
I think you'd be a great fake titty billionaire.
First of all, I keep thinking it too, and I'm not sure why I'm not one. The world is missing out.
It's because you're not Republican.
The world that's probably true. I'm just gonna switch parties. I've already endorsed Trump on this podcast.
Yes.
I voted Kamala. I'm endorsing Trump. I'm post-election. I'm endorsing it. Once it's done, it's all over.
Yes.
And I'm on board. As soon as I saw that he won, I became MAGA.
Right.
So, dude, I'm not a fucking communist. I actually believe because I want to make money. I just believe in a strong social, cultural, social safety net. Capitalism has to be reined in, all these kinds of things. We need to take care of one another. I think none of that is going to happen under Donald Trump. But I do want to say it's frustrating because when you read Karl Marx, it is like a witch doctor. Like, you're like, bro, this guy saw how the machine worked and could tell you how every part of it intricately works together. But his solution is like, we should not do it. And you're like, it's really like, that's as strong as it. There's no like technocratic solution. There's not a lot of like, it's very frustrating to like, his diagnosis of the Civil War is unbelievable. Like he really saw through the machine. It's just very frustrating to like look at that. I think that you have to appeal to people like Thomas Piketty, potentially, or Daniel Markovits, people who have diagnosed the relevant problems in the meritocracy we now live in and have prescribed solutions that I think are more realistic and relevant. Like, I think we like living in a world in which capitalism has like caused a massive material wealth for all of us. The problem is it's going to destroy the fucking planet. Like, that's the issue. And now that Donald Trump is president, it will do that. It's 100%. It's 80 degrees. It is 80 degrees on the 6th of November in New York.
And he's talking about drilling. Keep
drilling. Let's keep drilling, dude. We need that fucking oil. We need that fucking. I gotta get that oil.
Gotta get that
That fucking oil.
And so, yeah, man. And
Even though the CEO of Tesla is going to be transportation minister, all our public transit is going to go away, man.
No, yeah, it's gonna. So we're gonna watch. So slowly, a lot of things that people take for granted are gonna go away. A lot of people aren't gonna get their meds. A lot of people aren't gonna be able to get like various types of food stamps. The Department of Education is gonna get gutted. So kids are not gonna have any type of after school activities. You're gonna see a lot of crime go up in the cities, and then you're gonna see the weaponization of that in order to have stricter and stricter law. And that's what America voted for.
And you know what? The thing that I think is really messed up, and it's reminiscent of a strange kind of. It reminds me a little bit of Prohibition, in the sense that rural America was fine with Prohibition. It was the cities that were more liberal, as they always are, as cultural centers. It's strange because I don't think they'll be going away entirely. I think that what I prognosticate is that there's going to be I think he's going to get in office just like he did with the Muslim ban in his first term. And he's going to push really hard. There's going to be a door-to-door deportation in the United States. I think that's going to happen pretty quickly after he gets in. Border enforcement's going to be really strong. I think that the liberal media is going to be prosecuted, persecuted, pushed from a Trump administration. I think that's actually going to happen. Actually, and in a weird way, maybe fair enough, that kind of needed to happen a little bit, but not to the degree that it's going to happen. And I think that I can already feel that people hated that statement. And I think that the thing that's going to happen is that we left liberals, cities, are going to push back, and the crackdown on that is going to be very violent. That's what I think is going to happen, sadly.
That's it's funny. Who here has been hearing a lot about people getting shot in the streets lately or anything like that? Hey, you notice how the cities aren't on fire and there isn't like a global pandemic and like not everybody is just waiting on their $2,000 check that comes once every 6 months. Yeah, it's so bad under Biden, bro. Like it's
terrible. It's wild to me, man. I do think it's funny to me because I do think that the criticism that hey, the economy isn't great is actually, there's some truth to this, because I think that it is great. It's been good. The bounce back from COVID has been fantastic. The last 4 years have been a change in that regard.
I think it's like top 5 in the world.
Yeah, it's been good. I don't think that's translated to everybody, and I think that inflation has really cut in. I mean, I think that it's true. It's these prices are high. I make a lot of money in my day job, tons, not billionaire fake titty money. Okay,
Not yet, Brendan.
Yeah,
You've just recently become a Republican. Give it time.
Trump just got elected.
Yes.
Give it a minute.
Yes. We will all be billionaires in this new world. That's,
my
I think, what
God.
people like.
I think they think that.
Yeah. No, and I believe that now because I don't want to be attacked by my Tesla dog.
Honest to goodness, man, I think that some of them really think that. But I guess the point that I'm making is like my buying dollar doesn't go as far, right? I can see that. I think that there's some truth to that. I just don't know if Trump's tariff policies are going to help with this. Like,
I think not.
no, right? I don't think so either. Wow. All right. So we tried at a cursory level to talk about Hegel.
Yeah, and what Hegel would say is to trust the unfolding. And to look at things. So the Hegelian perspective on this would be that the war in Ukraine is going to come to an end. We're just not going to give any more weapons, and they're not going to be able to support that. I don't think Russia's going to go for total war yet with Poland or any of that. It's going to take time to restock, etc. And so it's going to lead to some lessened of the bloodshed. I think the Democrats, you can't play the good guy and not be the good guy all the way. And even though the Gaza situation is very allies, you can't be like, hey, we stand with people and then sell a bunch of guns. It does not look consistent with your identity. One of the things with Trump is people
Too many half measures.
Half measures, right? But the Democrats, because they have such a spread coalition, and then they have a coalition that as soon as they become successful, many of them become Republicans because they like how that sounds. And there is something aspirational about the Republican identity, which is that to be a Republican is to aspire for greatness and to be a billionaire yourself.
It feels like you're a real American.
Yes, even though I do think that this has been the co-opting of the American spirit by the Confederate spirit. And I think the Confederate, with anti-voting, voter suppression, all these other things. Yeah, dude, here's the thing. I have over 100 years of vets in my family. I love this country. And I'll say, I think that the southern states have co-opted America from Americans, and with a lot of their ignorant policies, and they don't generate the wealth to support it. Only recently, after liberals started moving to Texas. No, sorry, that's.
Well, but you have a point, because it's like a lot of effectively, what's the statement is blue cities subsidize red states.
Yes. We have $1 trillion GDP in New York City, dude. If you talk about the homeless in New York City, if we didn't have to cover your parks, we'd be fine. Everybody, we'd be fine. All right, and so but it is what it is. We're on this ride.
I want to talk about maybe this is a lot to get into in the last few minutes of this pod, but I do want to talk about Transism and Baudrillard. Yeah, because I read The Transparency of Evil when I was in college, and I almost did no required reading in college. All the books I was assigned I didn't read. I feel like all I did, I'd be in a class, and then I would go find a different philosopher, mostly contemporary, recent continental philosophers like Baudrillard, Adorno, Deleuze, Guattari, all these guys, and would start reading them. But particularly Baudrillard stood out to me. The Transparency of Evil was a big deal, and he was talking about transism, and not transsexualism specifically, not someone changing from male to female, or that wasn't essentially the concept, although that is a concept within what he was talking about. What he was talking about mostly, I think, with transism, at least with the Transparency of Evil, was the concept that one category was becoming another category. And this was like a real breakdown. Why do you think, for such a small issue, meaning for such a small amount of people, trans issues have become so important to people on the right?
Because they look different, and it's queer not in the gender, like not in how we use it's just weird, and it's easy. And I think like Satan's depicted as a hermaphrodite and a hermaphroditic quality. So
Really?
it
I've never seen that.
Represents chaos. That's in some of like the Baphomet stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't think that's what they're appealing to. I just think that there is
now I get why I was turned on. Sorry.
But and I think that it represents change, and it represents a changing of base principles. Like pronouns are, Heidegger talks about man thinks he's the shaper of language, but it's actually language that is the master of man, and it is this mistaken relationship between this relationship of domination that causes man's alienation. And so when you're like, oh, call me they. That it is such a base principle of language to some people that it molests how they view the world, and they feel attacked by it because it makes their map of reality make less sense.
There's something really there's something when you say the word queer, I think it makes sense because it's the feeling that word even invokes is that there's some type of insecurity that I feel like that invokes or inspires within people, and particularly within conservatives that feel threatened by this weird kind of like, I don't know what to do with this. And when I say weird, I just mean that feeling to them is so foreign. They're not sure what to do with it, and it feels threatening.
Yeah, and all your media is made to make it worse, and like
there's something with categories that I think part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is because you do a very good job. You've talked about this a lot on TikTok, but you talk about roles and categories, and you talk about playing a role or being in a role, playing a role well. People will assign you a role, people will give you a role, people will allow you to play a role. There's something about this that feels, and just to get back to this Kamala Harris being like, well, what is she? Is she black? Is she Indian? I don't know. There's something about the fact that Trump is like reminding the audience that she's not, you can't categorize her. And I noticed that a lot of the criticism I get on social media for defending her or for pushing her as a candidate took place around this concept. What do you think that is? I mean, what do you think it is about roles? What do you think it is about categories in people's minds?
So when you're in a rural or suburban context, you're coming across way fewer people. So you're not gonna have maybe the infrastructure in your head to be like, I'm gonna deal with every person and have them be this unique character. You want to pretend like you know more about the world than you do, so that you can make decisions and keep moving forward. And so when you're interacting with something that's going to make you question things constantly and you can't be very predictive on it, or you feel like you don't know, rather than engage any of that with curiosity, you engage it with fear and try to remove it. Right? Like the suburbs is about the removal of things that are inconvenient for you and having them other places. The city is about accepting things that are inconvenient for you and understanding that we're in this large tapestry of life and that we're all engaging
This is
each
so
other.
true, dude. I would tell people, to steel man your point, I would tell people after I moved to New York, I would tell people back in the Midwest, they'd be like, what's the city like? And I'm like, things will happen to you on a morning commute here that if they happen to you back in Michigan would be an entire week's worth of story. You would be telling that story for a week to people. And it's like, that's just Tuesday. And if you get to the office and you tell people, you gonna believe what happened? This guy fucking came up to me. They'd be like, why? Who cares? Yeah. What are you talking about? Like, that's the train. Get back to work. I don't know why we're talking about this.
Yeah, and so you're having tens of thousands of more like subtle interactions with people and getting desensitized to it. So I think that's a big thing, is that a lot of their lives are very solitary, and they engage in friend porn, a podcast, right? Like they don't have that many new friends, right? And so like they're not talking to that many people. They're not getting that many different perspectives. They're getting siloed almost immediately. And so that entrainment combined with the fact that, you have this cultural heritage of getting rid of anything that's not like you with segregation, and and believing that you're a hero and on a divine mission to restore America to a standard that it never was. So I think that's part of it. And trans is definitely not part of it. Like, you can look at it like a magnanimous black man who's muscular, who's done things. I've gone to powerlifting.
Magnanimous black man.
Right? Like, I've been to powerlifting meets in the middle of Indiana under massive Confederate flags, and had people standing up and celebrating black athletes for what they were able to do, right? Because, they can, there's part of the Southern spirit that's not all the way racist, right? And I want to acknowledge that. There's a lot of these people.
No, in a weird way, Northern people can be more racist racist in
Right.
in this kind of way.
Yeah, there's an appreciation and everything like that. I feel like it is very difficult for those people to have that kinsmanship or that relationship with a lot of trans people because they look at them as category destroying, right? So where you see, like, let's say, like, necessarily like a black athlete succeed extraordinarily, and you're like, oh wow, he did that, wow. But then you have somebody who maybe is competing in a category that they did not begin as, and that is reason to be suspicious of their merits, etc., and all these other things.
That's interesting.
Which like, here's the thing: is it's like, you know, and I'm gonna say this is like, you competing if you're a biological man and you're transitioning, I believe you should have tons of rights and tons of ability to participate. But you're going to break women's records, and I don't think that's fair to the girls who tried.
I just also don't think that's a major agenda for trans people.
No, I don't. I don't. Tons of them just want to live, love, and just have the life
totally
that they want.
fine people.
Yes.
Yeah. And not, you know, I think that
And not get Olympic medals.
yeah, just like the rest of us, honestly. Like, yeah, I think it's, but this is part of what look, so, I mean, the fact, I think we can probably agree on this, that it's like, yeah, I think it would be a little nuts to have somebody transition immediately go into, you know, track, for example, is sprinting is one where I think there's a biological potentially advantage of somebody, MMA, who knows, but I don't think making the argument, and then I'm not saying you did this, but making the argument about that or the conversation about that feels particularly limiting in this really abnormal way, which is like the same way that if we talk about abortion, somebody's like partial birth, and you're like, how many? These are such edge cases that, like, when Pete Buttigieg does he does a good job of this, where he's like, by definition, someone who's having a late term abortion is someone who intended to have this child. You know, this is someone who is making a terrible fucking choice, a terrible decision. This is an edge case, right? So making the argument about that almost feels like, and I'm not saying you did this, but making the argument about these things is minimizing of the actual topic. I think it's strange because it feels like a major part of the right-wing shift that happened is probably due to, because they said it many times in Trump's, many times he said it, I heard him say it, was about she wants to give trans treatment to prisoners, you know? How could this possibly be? Like, in my head, when I hear that, I'm like, there's no way that's true. Like, and also, I get, if there's a prisoner and they went through a transition, it's like, I get, you know,
They need estrogen. I'm like,
you could just give it to
Yeah.
them. I know, who cares?
there's a bunch of motherfuckers on test in prison.
Who gives, how many possible prisoners could there be
Oh,
who
yeah.
are doing this? They can't be, it's, you know what I mean?
No, but it looks strange.
It looks strange, and it looks like somebody else is getting something that you should be getting. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of conservatives that should be getting estrogen treatment. There are a lot of conservatives who need gender affirming care. But the point that I'm making is that it feels like that weirdly became this big issue that feels like it should be a non-issue.
No, yeah, and the right's really emails. People are dying from, like, you know, curable disease. Emails, you know, and so they will not move off the point. Here's the thing: if I were to go do it again, we're wrapping up here in like a little bit, but I would have just never.
I'm the host. I'm the one who says that.
Sorry,
We're wrapping up here in a little bit. Continue.
Is that they if you just never moved off the point, his vice president, he tried to kill his last vice president. I'm not moving this forward until all of you understand. Play the clip again. How many times do I have to play it? Because people are like, well, what are her other things? No, play the only thing. They try to burn down the Capitol.
They showed up and tried to burn it. How many? You know what's amazing? This guy wins, and 0 people are like, "Wait a minute, this election!" Like, nobody said that. Nobody's done any of that.
No, because we are
Because they're liars. That's
Yes,
why.
Yes, and also
they're bad faith participants.
and liberals are losers.
And liberals are losers. If there's one thing you can take away from this podcast today, it's that Bill hates trans people and liberals are losers.
And neither of those are true.
No, one of them is, and that's that liberals are losers.
Yeah, at least yesterday.
At least yesterday. Look, man, I mourn for her loss. Also, I mourn for the possibilities that could have happened. Hopefully, and because it's the internet, I know this isn't possible. People will see through and understand the humor of this podcast, but it's gonna be. I'm pretty pessimistic about things that are gonna happen. I've actually been rather jovial on this podcast, but Bill can tell you. Take it from him. On the way here, I was rather pessimistic about, I think, the future of this country and what's going to happen with the Trump presidency and a Republican majority in pretty much every branch of government.
Yeah, man. If there's a lot of people who voted for Trump who are diabetic and were enjoying $30 insulin. And I feel I genuinely feel bad for the people who are going to die because of the policy changes. It's scaled at high enough, and we should take some time to mourn them. And also, you know what? I also enjoy that I can't get canceled, bro.
No, you can. You're not white. That's the sad truth in Trump's America.
Yeah, you're right. They can cancel. This will be my last recording. I'm moving me and my family back to the UK. So, you won't see me back here ever. UK citizen.
God, dude, Bill Beteet, love you, buddy.
Hey,
Thanks
dude,
for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Meanwhile, the madness continues. And we're out.
Okay, that was fun.